Imagine living 30,000 years ago. Life is difficult, dangerous, and unpredictable. Every day is a struggle to find food, avoid predators, and survive the forces of nature. Yet despite all these challenges, there is one thing that ancient humans could never escape: death. Death touched every part of their short and fragile lives. Just like today, people grew old, became sick, or suffered injuries. Family members watched as loved ones became weaker over time. They may not have understood exactly why it was happening, but they knew something important was changing. Death approached slowly, leaving families helpless and filled with sorrow. Eventually, there came a moment when a person stopped breathing and never woke up again. For the first time, the group faced a question that every human society would eventually ask. What happens when someone dies? This question about death would define all human cultures forever. To us, death is familiar. We understand it as a biological process. But for ancient humans, death must have seemed mysterious and confusing. One moment a person was alive, talking, laughing, and moving. The next moment, they were completely still. Death felt like a theft, something precious suddenly taken away. Imagine standing beside someone you knew your entire life and suddenly realizing they would never speak again. Ancient humans likely felt the same emotions we feel today: sadness, confusion, fear, and loss. Grief over death is one of the oldest human feelings. Without science or written knowledge, people searched for explanations. They wondered where the person had gone. Was there something beyond death? Did a spirit leave the body? Or was death simply the end? Unanswered questions about death haunted ancient minds day and night. As humans observed nature, they noticed death everywhere. Animals died. Plants withered. Seasons changed. Life seemed to follow a cycle, and people naturally began looking for meaning within that cycle. Perhaps death, like winter, was simply nature preparing for rebirth. The death of a family member affected the entire group. In small prehistoric communities, everyone depended on one another. Losing even one person could leave a deep emotional and practical impact. Death did not just take a life, it shook everything. Family members likely stayed close to one another during these difficult moments. They comforted each other, shared memories, and supported those who were grieving. This may have been one of humanity's earliest forms of emotional care. Mourning together helped survivors cope with unbearable loss and grief. At some point, ancient humans had to decide what to do with the body. Leaving it exposed could attract predators and create problems for the group. So they began developing ways to handle death respectfully. Leaving a body behind risked attracting dangerous predators to camp. One solution was burial. Archaeological evidence suggests that humans have been burying their dead for tens of thousands of years. This simple act reveals something remarkable about the human mind. Burial shows ancient humans never treated death as something casual. Imagine a group carefully digging into the earth using primitive tools. The process requires effort and cooperation. It shows that the deceased person still mattered, even after death. Digging a grave was an act of love and respect. The body would then be placed into the burial site. This was more than a practical decision. It may have been one of the earliest signs that humans viewed death as something meaningful rather than ordinary. Placing a body carefully showed death deserved dignity, not dismissal. In some ancient burials, archaeologists have discovered objects placed beside the dead. Tools, ornaments, food, and other items were sometimes buried as well. But why? These offerings suggest death was seen as a new journey. One possibility is that people believed these objects might be useful after death. If true, this suggests that ancient humans imagined some form of existence beyond the grave. Belief in life after death is perhaps humanity's oldest idea. After placing the body and objects inside, the burial site would be covered. Family members may have stood nearby, reflecting on the loss of someone important to them. Covering the grave was a silent, final farewell to death. These moments may have become humanity's earliest funeral ceremonies. Even if they were simple, they allowed people to gather, remember, and process their emotions together. Ritual gave death meaning in a world full of confusion. Stories likely played an important role during these gatherings. People may have shared memories about the person's life, their achievements, and the experiences they shared together. Stories kept the dead alive in the hearts of survivors. Children would have listened carefully. Through these conversations, they learned not only about the person who died but also about how their community understood death itself. Children learned that death, like birth, was part of life. As night fell and people gathered around the fire, storytellers may have begun explaining what they believed happened after death. These stories would eventually become some of humanity's earliest ideas about spirits, ancestors, and the afterlife. Early stories about death became the seeds of all religion. As humans began thinking about death, they also began imagining what might happen afterward. Perhaps loved ones continued to exist somewhere beyond the physical world. Maybe death was not an ending, but the beginning of another journey. Ancient humans refused to believe death simply erased everything they loved. Without scientific explanations, people searched for answers in the world around them. Some may have looked up at the stars and wondered if those who had died were somehow watching from above. The night sky became a source of mystery and imagination. Death pushed ancient minds to explore ideas far beyond their world. Imagine lying beside a campfire thousands of years ago, staring at countless stars stretching across the darkness. In a world without city lights, the sky would have appeared breathtaking. It is easy to see why so many early beliefs were connected to the heavens. The sky felt like a place where death sent departed souls. As these ideas developed, certain individuals became responsible for guiding spiritual practices. These early shamans or spiritual leaders helped communities make sense of loss and uncertainty. They became the first guides humanity had for understanding death together. They performed rituals, shared stories, and offered explanations about life and death. Whether their beliefs were correct or not, they gave people comfort during some of life's most difficult moments. Ritual became the bridge between the living and the dead. Many ancient communities also left offerings near burial sites. Food, tools, ornaments, and other objects were placed beside the dead. These items may have been gifts, symbols of respect, or supplies for a journey beyond death. Every offering was a small act of love defying death. Burial places often remained important long after the funeral was over. Families may have returned to visit these locations, remembering loved ones and keeping their memory alive. Returning to graves shows death never fully separated the living. Children grew up watching these traditions. They learned how to honor the dead, how to participate in ceremonies, and how to carry important beliefs into the future. Death rituals taught children that loss deserved respect and remembrance. As generations passed, these customs became stronger and more organized. Knowledge about death, burial, and remembrance was passed down from parents to children for thousands of years. Each generation inherited ancient wisdom about how to face death. Over time, simple burials evolved into more complex traditions. Different groups developed unique ways of honoring their dead, creating customs that reflected their beliefs and culture. No two cultures dealt with death in exactly the same way. Some communities eventually created dedicated burial areas where multiple generations were laid to rest. These early cemeteries became places of memory, connecting the living to those who came before them. Early cemeteries turned death into a permanent part of community life. Thousands of years later, these burial sites still exist beneath the ground. Today, archaeologists carefully uncover them, searching for clues about how ancient humans lived and what they believed. Every burial site uncovered reveals how seriously humans took death. Every skeleton, tool, ornament, and burial object tells a story. These discoveries help modern researchers understand not only prehistoric life, but also prehistoric emotions and beliefs. Death left behind more evidence about humanity than almost anything else. When we compare ancient burials to modern funerals, the similarities can be surprising. The methods may be different, but the emotions often remain the same. Grief, remembrance, and love connect humans across thousands of years. Death has always made humans reach out to comfort each other. Ancient people also expressed their feelings through art and symbols. Cave paintings, carvings, and decorative objects may have helped communities remember important people and events. Art became one of the earliest tools for processing death's pain. Even long after someone died, their memory continued to live within the group. Stories about their life, achievements, and personality could be shared for many years. Death ended a life but could never erase a person's story. In this way, ancestors became an important part of human culture. Remembering those who came before helped communities maintain their identity and connection to the past. Honoring the dead gave the living a stronger sense of purpose. As civilizations developed, beliefs about death became increasingly complex. But many of the foundations may have begun with simple questions asked around prehistoric campfires. Every religion and afterlife belief grew from early questions about death. Even today, humans continue to visit graves, hold funerals, share memories, and wonder about what happens after death. In many ways, we are still asking the same questions our ancestors asked thousands of years ago. Death remains the one mystery no generation has ever fully solved. So how did ancient humans deal with death? They mourned. They remembered. They buried their loved ones with care. They created stories, rituals, and beliefs to make sense of loss. And through those efforts, they revealed something deeply human, the desire to find meaning, connection, and hope even in the face of mortality. Death, it turns out, is what made us deeply and beautifully human.